We've learned how to import media that's already been digitized. But how do you get footage from your camera or deck onto your media drive in a format Final Cut can work with? That depends on whether it's on tape or memory cards. In the File menu, you'll find two options. Log and Capture is what you do to acquire from tape. Log and Transfer is what you do to acquire from memory cards. On the front end, these tools will look very similar, but because Log and Capture has to control an external mechanical device with lots of moving parts, a lot more can go wrong. By contrast, Log and Transfer is effortless, once you know how it works. As memory cards get smaller, cheaper, and have greater capacity, tape has begun the long, slow ride into the technological sunset. But for now, tape still predominates. So let's begin with Log and Capture. If you're working with a breakout box and PCI card to capture video, consult the manufacturer's instructions for driver installation and setup. For the rest of us, Final Cut Pro is ready-made to control and capture from devices via FireWire. In this example, I'll be capturing mini DV footage from a consumer-grade JVC handheld camcorder, but the same techniques apply to decks controlled by FireWire. First, quit Final Cut Pro. Connect the camera to your computer with the FireWire cable. Typically, these cameras use a FireWire 400 cable. The smaller 4-pin connector goes into the camera, and the larger 6-pin connector into your computer. Your device may require a different type of cable. Power up the camera, and put in your tape. Make sure the camera is in VTR mode. Relaunch Final Cut Pro. Every time you start Final Cut, it searches for the device type you specified in your Easy Setup. If it finds it, it won't say anything, and you can ignore the next minute or two of this clip. If you get this warning dialog, Final Cut can't find your device. You could hit Continue and edit in Final Cut Pro with no problems. However, you wouldn't be able to capture anything, and that's the point of this session. If you are seeing this dialog, and if you have a camera present, check your cables and connections. Make sure the camera is powered up and in VTR mode, and then hit Check again. If the warning persists, hit Continue, and then Control-Q for Easy Setup. And double-check that all these settings conform to those of your camera. When you hit the Setup button, Final Cut will search again for your camera. If the warning's gone, you're good to go. It's time to open the Log and Capture window, which you can access in the File menu or with the shortcut Command 8. It initializes, and the Log and Capture window opens. If you're capturing from an HDV camera and have selected HDV and Easy Setup, your window will look slightly different. It'll be simplified and have fewer options in some of the tabs due to the compression scheme of HDV. However, the logging and capture controls work exactly the same. The first thing you need to look at is the center of the window just below the transport controls. You want this to read VTR OK. If it says No Communication, you need to revisit your Easy Setup and try changing from DVNTSC to DVNTSC FireWire Basic. This makes the communication process less complex for some cameras. But you should immediately go to the Capture Settings tab in the Log and Capture window and make sure the change you just made is reflected in Device Control. I'm not having any trouble with DVNTSC, so I'm staying put. I'm also happy with both my Capture Input settings and Scratch Disk designation, but you can double-check them here before capture. In the Clip Settings tab, the top area is for video settings, the bottom for audio. The two buttons on top and the sliders just below are for calibrating a signal coming in from a capture card. As we're using FireWire, the only control that concerns us is the video checkbox. We want this checked if we want picture, and we'd only uncheck it if we wanted to capture audio only. The same is true for the audio checkbox. Leave it checked for sync sound, or uncheck it if you want to capture video only. The preview checkbox determines whether audio will play back through your computer or your video device. Leave it checked if you want to hear audio through your computer. The audio channel controls are currently set to dual mono, which is what you want if you recorded two inputs during shooting. Left and right are treated as separate tracks, so you can use and mix them individually in editing. If you click this toggle, a bracket appears, meaning that left and right are merged as a single stereo audio track. When set to stereo, nothing happens when you click the green channel lights. But when you click back to dual mono, you can click these buttons to disable one or the other of the tracks. But how do you know which track to disable? The meter moving will tell you which channels are in use. Hit the spacebar to play. In this case, it's both, and we'll set the toggle back to stereo. Now that we're communicating with our camera and all our settings are in order, it's time to start logging clips.